Okay, so on the B vitamins, this is a little bit outside the scope of the course, and I'll be honest with you, I sat there and did this last night, and I just tried to write it all off the top of my head just to see where I was with things, because I'm currently studying the genetics, so I wanted to see and sort of test myself a little bit. But this is important, right? So with the B vitamins, I said before that you'll see a lot of B vitamins added onto things, okay, and you'll see folic acid thrown into everything. Women are told to increase folic acid while they're pregnant. They're given supplements with folic acid in it. You'll see folic acid in cereals, where they call it fortified, so they've added vitamins to things. There's a bit of a problem with this folic acid. You really want to avoid it at all costs because it's a synthetic form of B9, okay, which is methylfolate. Now, there's a lot of people that have this SNP, right? This single nucleotide polymorphism. I know it sounds really, really geeky, right? But just think of a SNP. SNP is what we abbreviate that down to. Now, this particular SNP, this particular gene, the MTHFR gene, it's also called the motherfucker gene. Because if you've got this variation of this gene, you're in for a lot of problems. Right, it's exactly that, right? And I was actually on a course recently in Denmark on nutrigenomics, which is the study of genetics and food, and this dear old lady who had been a doctor for about 1,000 years put her hand up and asked about the motherfucker gene, which was really, really funny. Yeah, so it's methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase. I did that without reading it, just to remember it. And what the gene does is it basically converts your folic acid, okay, so the inactive form of vitamin B9, into the active form of vitamin B9. Right, so it's really simple. That's all the MTHFR gene. It converts folic acid into the active form. It creates a methyl group, so it takes the methylfolate, and then that goes on then to activate and deactivate all your genes. Right, so we spoke before about epigenetics, so you can activate genes and deactivate genes. The way your genes aren't set in stone. Okay, so if they were, then everyone would be screwed, right? But there's stuff that we can do about it. We can change our lifestyles, change our food, and we can do stuff. Now, that enzyme converts folic acid to methylfolate. Now the SNP, I won't go into this too much, so we have 3 variations on a gene. Okay, you have a wild type, which means it doesn't really have effects whatsoever. So you've got the standard version of it and everything's working as it should. Then you have a heterozygote, and then you have homozygote. Now hetero means that from your parents you had 1 copy from one parent and 1 copy from another parent. So you've got 2 different variations of that gene. So it's not as bad as it could get. Now, if you've got that variation of the MTHFR gene, you lose 30 to 40% of its ability to convert the inactive folic acid into methylfolate. Okay. If you've got the homozygote, so you've got 2 copies, which is TT, so if you've got 1 from your mum and 1 from your dad, then you're really unlucky, and that means you've got a 60 to 70% reduction in your ability to process folic acid into methylfolate, right? So the standard way of doing things in the UK is pump everything full of folic acid. So many people have got this genetic mutation, and that means that they're not then converting that folic acid into methylfolate, right? And it becomes really dangerous in the body then. And what will actually happen is methylation becomes impaired, right? So methylation is basically switching genes on and off. That happens every second, thousands of times, millions of times in your body, right? Activating, deactivating different genes. If that becomes impaired, everything stops working. So the genes in charge of your oxidative stress, the genes in charge of your neurotransmitters, the genes in charge of detoxification, they all stop working in the way that they should. So then that leads to cancer, autoimmune disease, chronic disease, Alzheimer's disease, high blood pressure, high lipids. So you'll see people that have got this mutation within this gene, they don't really tolerate saturated fat very well. So you can put them on a really good low carb, high fat diet, but because they've got this genetic mutation, blood pressure goes through the roof. Blood lipids, right? Your cholesterol, your triglycerides, everything goes up. And people don't work out why. And someone will say, well, you know, my genes just mean I've got high level of these things. The reason you've got high level of these things is because you're not converting your folic acid into methylfolate. So people with this gene need to really supplement with the active form of methylfolate. And as well, part of that process is getting some methylcobalamin in there as well, which is your vitamin B12. So I know it is a little bit geeky, but it's trying to explain to you that the food isn't just calories. It's not calories in, calories out. It's not oh wow, this tastes good, and your selection of food shouldn't be based on just whether something tastes good, makes you feel good. Right? Every single thing that you eat is a signal in your body. It creates signals. It activates genes. It deactivates genes. It will tell your microbiome, your gut bacteria, to do different things. It will change the diversity of your gut bacteria. And to get healthy, it's not a case of just cut out calories and then we're going to be fine and we'll have a little cheat every couple of days and everything's all going to go back to normal really, really quickly. If you've got yourself to a point where you actually screwed your body up, like most people have, like I really did, to change that, we've got to change things on a cellular level, right? We've got to get back down to this on a genetic level. We've got to fix our genes, fix our microbiome. So that's why I try and avoid the cheating and everything else. When you get to a point when everything's working as it should, you're robust, right? Your immune system's good. If you get a cold, so what, you shake it off in a couple of days. You're not sick for weeks and weeks and weeks and can't get over it and it keeps coming back again and again and again. You know, like your body weight stays the same. You don't go on holiday and it goes up 3 stone, you come back and it all goes again. You know, your weight just stays the same. You've got that nice homeostasis, so everything's just as it should be. When you get to that point, then you can start playing around with things and put the little cheats in, you know, go and enjoy yourself and start living your life how you want to live it. But until you get to that point, you've got to dial things in, okay, on a level. So this is my DNA report, and this is just mine on the methylation, and it shows you that my genes are really crap, apart from one of them which was good, which lowers homocysteine. Now you remember on the blood work that I gave everyone to get done, there was a level there for homocysteine and doctors refused to do it, but homocysteine is a really good marker. So instead of paying for a genetic panel and trying to work out what's going on, if homocysteine is elevated, chances are you've got a problem with the MTHFR gene. You've got a problem with your methylfolate. And what you'll see is people with that, they suffer from chronic fatigue, start developing cancer, they have high blood pressure, all of these things going wrong. And one little thing, you start to increase leafy greens in the diet, like some spinach, some kale, some chard, real good sources of active methylfolate. You put those into the diet, and all of a sudden, all of these things start working better. All of your genetics start working better. You can detoxify better. You can clear things out of your system better. Your weight's regulated better. Everything will work better. But this, if anyone ever wants to do anything like this, like I can do it, we can do genetic testing, I can work with you on it. From where I am at the moment, I really believe that it's probably my last 5% of people. You know, like I said, with clients in the past, I can fix 80% of people just food and lifestyle. Then the other 20% we need to do further testing. We need to do some more lab work. We need to do some blood work, some stool analysis. And then when you get down to the final 5% of people, the real complicated clients, like me, right? I'm definitely the most complicated client I've ever had. I've got the worst genes, I've got the worst gut bacteria, I've got the worst chronic illnesses and all of that stuff. Everything's wrong, right? So I have to get this stuff really dialed in. And if I don't, I can't do all the things that I would do. You know, I'd go back to not being able to walk, not being able to feed myself, like doing back down that road. So changing everything on a cellular level is massive. And, you know, if you want to do genes, then it can be real worthwhile for people that are struggling. You know, when you get your food right, your sleep's right, and you go, things just aren't correct still. And that's where we start looking at. Any questions on that?
How do you find out? You have to go to doctors to find these things.
All the genetic stuff I do, that's well outside of where the doctors are. But I can see that that's the way the medical system is going to go, because it becomes very individualised. You know, I've said before, the way that you eat and the way that I eat, the way that Mike eats, Sue eats, Sarah eats, the way everyone eats needs to be based around your own genetic disposition, you know, like how you process those foods. So what you're about to do, it is very individualised. But doctors can't do that. There are some genetic testing that I can do for people now where we can actually test to see how you respond to medication. So instead of a doctor saying to you, right, I'm going to put you on statins, I can test your genetics and actually see how you're going to respond to different medications before the doctor spent 5 years pumping you full of pills that don't work. Which again is really interesting, really cool stuff. Right, fat soluble vitamin.